And so, having cleared out what are the possible direction in which to find the real important things to learn, just like if you were sent out to another planet, what do I see as being the possibilities of a different way, a different setting, a different context in which to learn? What are the key resources that we really need to make learning different and more effective than the teaching we have now? Well, already in 1970, a man named Ivan Illich published a book that contained many of the words and terms that would only appear in our language many, many years after. The book was called This School in Society. It's still available and you can buy it today online or in a traditional bookstore. And it's a very valuable book because it really explains in very clear terms what are the limits of the teaching and the schooling system we have now, we have created ourselves, and what could be a vision for a future of learning that takes advantage of things that even didn't have available to him at the time, but which have become available to us in the meanwhile. And these are network of resources, easy ways to find and contact other people, easy ways for you to publicize what you would like to learn and find other people who have your same passion. All of this at the time was not available in any way to Ivan, but nonetheless, he came up with a vision for a learning web, for a network of resources, something that he could only feel needed to be realized for all of the variables that true learning requires to fully bloom. And now, I mean, is the time that these resources can be taken up, that we are ready to start and consider to create some of these specific things because we are already there. We've built some of this stuff. But for example, we should focus more, as even suggested, in creating some skill exchanges, places where I can go and declare what my own skills are without needing to put their certificates or diplomas. If I have them, fine. If I don't have them, I'm fine still. And I can say when and how, through which delivery method I want to deliver my knowledge, my know-how, my skills, and I should have an easy way finding the people that are looking to learn that stuff, no matter if I do it for free or if I do it for a price. And the same should be for the people searching for learning something. They should be able to go to a skill exchange and easily search who are the people out there that are available to share their knowledge. And there are very many people today that want to share their knowledge without asking anything in return, if not just a credit, a value, a reputation sign that allows them to learn from other people as well, maybe from people that are more knowledgeable than them. And then the next thing we can enable through the use of the internet, the social networks, the community, and the technologies that support and empower those that use these new media technologies is to get in touch finally with the peers, the proper peers, not just the people who have my same age and live around me. Who cares about those people? I want to get in touch with the people who are trying to study the same stuff I want to learn, who are passionate about learning the same things that I have been studying for some time, who are willing to share with me some of their secrets and tips and discoveries, just like I love to do with them. Because when this happens, true, fantastic, super powerful learning takes place in the shortest time and with the richest results. And we need also to utilize the internet to showcase and bring up, let the best models, the best ideas. So this can be very subjective, but the more models and ideas to be raised up and showcased. The internet is such a perfect vehicle to do that. And so, whichever the field of study and your interest is, creating models and recording on how those models work, no matter if they're human being or they're websites or new softwares, the ability to study and go through models is very important to understand, relate to something, make it yours, and then apply it in real life. Just as much as we need to absolutely give all of the energy and appreciation we have to elders, that is, these people who are normally segregated out of our normal life because they're kind of useless, they're not so valuable anymore to us, are very valuable to us because they have tremendous experience, lots of time, lots of love and patience to share, especially with those that are younger and interested in finding out more, having lots of questions. The elders are our very rich resource that we should absolutely engage and bring in into these learning webs, as even would call them, in ways that they participate inside the skill exchanges, inside the situation in which people are practicing but want some external suggestion or feedback from somebody that may not even be an expert in that field. So they really act as educators at large, I would say, as guides, facilitators, though we may need also some of these people who are willing to help others learn. Even though they may not have the specific skills, they're the people who help you ask the right questions or evaluate the information you have available, or that can suggest to you where you can go to find out more information on a certain topic. So all of these things are really, if you look at them, the key things we need to get a different type of learning. It's not a matter of desks, of pencils, of a classroom, but of creating hubs online and services and tools that allow us to find each other, to mix and match what I want to learn with whoever wants to share that skills and knowledge, and involving people of all kinds, from novice beginners to experts, into groups where the passion is what drives, and in which there are also people with lots of experience out of the job line who are willing to help, suggest, facilitate. Just like what happens in a beautiful country of this world. After 1 year, they go out with this fantastic carnival showcase, but throughout the preceding 11 or 12 months, what happens in Brazil is that they have this very, very fantastic model for learning that are the samba schools. Just like samba schools, in which people rent a place, make it their own, and then mixing up people of all ages and expertise, prepare throughout the year a program of dance and music by working all together, by stopping and having micro lectures. Oh no, these 3 steps, you should do it like this. Or then they call some old people that give their suggestion. Oh, they did it 20 years ago. And then they discuss and they find a new solution. And they're all playing, experimenting, trying out, making mistakes, going out and looking at how others do it, just like is learning. But they bring it to the very highest level by being so open with each other and so embracing to differences among them, by being so open to make mistakes and to try out new things. This is where we can learn a great deal about what learning is, and this is a fantastic model to look up to when we're looking at the future of learning. But let me bring in a good friend from Zurich, Switzerland, some kind of friend, at least geographic or descendant of even Illich, and this good friend is Gerd Leonard, the author of the book Future of Music, which is by itself something you should really spend some time looking at if you want to get an understanding of where the music and the music business is going. And let me ask you, Gerd, what do you think then of this future of learning, and what are the resources, in your opinion, we really need to have to make this work as we need? What do you think, Gerd? Please.
What kind of things do we need to manage the sort of new things that are happening in education? I think that what we need most of all is to learn from each other rather than from the sort of authorized professionals, which we will continue to learn from, obviously. But the most important thing is to connect and actually collaborate. I think that's where also a lot of the benefit comes from that we have in this community and the fast knowledge exchange. I think a lot of things that have to do with multimedia and games and learning interactively are vastly superior to learning in the sort of old reading style way. I think the multimedia thing is, of course, a major boost to learning activity and learning potential. What we need to do is to dive into that and figure out how we can connect to the collective wisdom that we have out there. I think that is a huge mission for education.
Thank you, Gerd. That was really helpful, and I appreciate you giving me your contribution. The author of The Future of Music, Gerd Leonard from Switzerland. And so let me ask now another difficult question before really closing, as I'm getting there to my final point in all this. Do you think that degrees and certificates and diplomas are going to play the same role they've played until today? Well, let me tell you before I ask another couple of interesting friends that I've brought over today, that even in my office, in my own professional life, stuff has changed drastically when it comes to certificate and degrees and CVs and resume. People still do send them, and I still do ask to read, a CV of what somebody who would want to work in my company has done, has studied, which schools he has been attending. But when it comes to deciding whether I take a person or not, I really don't pay any attention at all. If not, quite the opposite. I actually, from experience, in some cases, have to somehow favor those that have moved more in the practical world than those that have spent too much time in the academic one. For one, because the people who have spent a lot of time in the academic world without being very, very, very specialized tend to get some ideas of how things are, and it's more difficult at a certain age than to modify those ideas as much as you could do before that time. And secondly, because the people who have tried things, who have lived more of the life, the real one, outside of those closed walls, and have tried out things, are more prone to have the skills that I really need, which are creative skills in the sense of being able to solve different situations and problems without having, to follow a book or a specific set of rules that is always the same. So in my personal experience, today, finding somebody that I like is really all based on work and reputation. That is, what can you do if I now take you here, keep you here for 2 weeks or 2 months? And what do people that know you say if I call them, or if I go to your Facebook, or if I search for comments on your blog? That's really what counts for me in the end. There's no amount of degrees or diplomas you may have collected, and these of course as exceptions in specific fields, but I work in media and communication, and I work in training and marketing, and this applies to advertising and cinema, movies, TV, radio, I think to many fields. What I look at is what you can do and what reputation you have been able to build for yourself over the years. But let me ask those some different guys, and let me ask somebody completely at the other extreme, at least in terms of institutional background, somebody who works for universities, for the academic field, and this is a great researcher, which I truly admire, Stephen Downes, who has inspired me with those points that enlighten us about what is really important to learn. Stephen, what is your take on the value of certificates and diplomas in the future?
You know, we can ask, do my sons or my daughters need a degree to get ahead in tomorrow's world? And the question really depends on what they're trying to do. If they're going to be involved in academic employment where they'll be judged lacking if they don't have a degree, then they're going to have to get that piece of paper. That's a matter of pragmatic practicality. But if they're involved in creative or artistic fields, in fields where your work is your calling card, where you can prove your worth with good code, good art, good writing, whatever, then no, they're not going to need a degree. And I think in the future, we're going to see more and more scope for employment in the creative fields and less for employments in more traditionally academic fields. So I think they'll be able to get by without a degree. But again, it would depend on their choices.
Thank you, Stephen Downs, for your view on how important certificates, diplomas, degrees may be in the future. But let me jump also to the future guy from Finland, my good friend Teemu Arena, and let me ask Teemu, how do you see yourself, the future of degrees and certifications when it comes to the world of work? How do you think this is gonna play out in the future?
Would someone need a degree in the future? I think in the future we will learn from multiple sources, from multiple people, multiple information systems, and also from the past as well as current as well as the future. In that world we will also provide degrees not based on one single source, a university, but we gather these fragments and it happens in interaction online. So when I'm going to one school, when I'm going to one course, one conference like LeWeb, or I'm blogging, whatever these different events are, someone could go through that and provide me some kind of evaluation for my future boss. This guy has been really thinking about these things many years. It's not just what he's done and written down and what kind of numbers he got in tests, but also what other people are saying about him. So it's also about what other people say about you, what is your impact on the network, and how you manage to do that impact that is going to get you forward.
And so what I would really like to see, and what even Illich himself suggested we aspire to, is to see the emergence of possibly some new breed of educator, facilitator, guide, or teacher. Somebody you may even think like similar to what bloggers have been, you know, from nothing, with new technologies and desire of people to communicate and get together and exchange ideas. We've got independent publishers, independent bloggers out there who produce news, commentary, review, insight, research, lots of very valuable stuff which mainstream media didn't provide. So in the same way, why can't you and I think of the rise of the professional independent educator? That is anybody who has full desire and right, as anybody should have, to share his knowledge, skills, experience with other people and with no barriers. That by itself, for however simple this is, the knowledge and awareness that each one of us can play this role of becoming somebody valuable for others, just like we do in real life, just in time, informally, we can consciously decide to spend time and some of our resources to provide the best we have in certain areas for others to learn from. And so, to really close my point, I would like to bring up what I call the paradox of 2.0. Because if you think of it, in the world of social media, marketing, advertising, and before them television, radio, traditional print journalism, in the last few years, we have come to realize a number of ideas and principles that are mind-shattering, disruptive of the whole system. Instead of communicating in ways that are rigid and top-down and pre-packaged, we've learned to listen from the bottom up. We've learned to involve those that we are addressing those messages to. We've learned to question our own position and to take down our facades and not to hype who we are, but really to come down and question who we are and listen to what the others say. We've learned to collaborate. We've learned to share. We've learned that being wrong is an opportunity to find more and more precisely what the closer way to being right is. All of these things we've discovered. We've come up with terms like 2.0 that sum up some of this in very simple ways. But then, when we go home and think about our kids, all of this disappears. There is no 2.0 for the world of our kids and how we bring them up to speed to learn how to live in the 2.0 world. But how can we pretend to prepare our kids for a future that is fast changing, unpredictable, always more complex, and in which we have found out that by cooperating and not competing, by sharing and not secreting, by giving before asking back, by listening and making mistakes, by knowing that there is no ultimate right or wrong, how can we prepare these kids for this type of world in which we're trying to be even economically successful? How can we prepare them by sending them to the Middle Ages in a world where everything is black or white, there are no questions, they have no voice into saying which direction they're going, they slaughter with people they have nothing to do with, and so on. I mean, these two worlds are in bad contrast. We need to harmonize them. We need to make them love each other because we are aware, but we are acting like if we were not. By harmonizing these two things, we can truly have a paradigm shift because the things are already out there. The awareness for many of us and many of you listening is already there. It may not be there for everyone, but there is enough of us to bring out the message, to showcase, to bring peers in and let the virus of the good change go around. So it's only up to me and you to take up some of these ideas and to try to bring them to reality for your own, for a business skill exchange that you may want to build online, for tools that will help this. Whichever way you do it is going to change the world we learn. And one last realization we've made today by looking at teaching, learning, and how learning could really be is that in the end, learning is one of those few things that unless you really love it, you can't really do it. Thank you.